Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you're all having a great day, evening, night, morning, whatever. I apologize if I sound kinda tired. I've been up for like 30 something hours. The only thing that's keeping me going is caffeine, and I just worked a full shift. So, it is what it is. But, I've already had this video made before, but I found out a lot of information about Ubisoft that definitely makes this whole situation worse, and I would like to add that in, so I'm just retaking the entire video. But you all remember Star Wars Outlaws. It launched on August 27th, I think it was, and it didn't do too well. Gamers thought it was mediocre as hell, and it's just a mid experience, and why would you go out and spend $80-$90 for a mid experience when so many better games exist? You could buy Space Marine 2, which came out around the exact same time as Star Wars Outlaws, for around the exact same price. Why would you pick Star Wars Outlaws? You could get a couple cheaper indie games for the same price as Star Wars Outlaws, and those are actually functional. Star Wars Outlaws is broken as hell and literally has game-breaking bugs. Why pay for that? Well, it seems like a lot of people made the smart decision and didn't buy Star Wars Outlaws, and now Ubisoft is scratching their heads saying, well, what the hell happened, guys? Why didn't you accept the mediocre experience? Making solid games isn't enough when you have gamers expecting extraordinary experiences, Ubisoft CEO says after Star Wars Outlaws. Good ain't good enough, Ubisoft finds. Well, good seemed to be good enough for Space Marine 2. It seemed to be good enough for Black Myth Wukong. It seemed to be good enough for Stellar Blade. It seemed to be good enough for Astrobot. Those games aren't masterpieces. They're very good, but not masterpieces. They all have flaws. The difference between Star Wars Outlaws and all those games is all of those games were finished on launch and felt like they had soul put into them, unlike Star Wars Outlaws. And this article is a terrible look for your company. Like, this is you coming out and basically saying, we don't want to make extraordinary experiences if that's what gamers demand. We just want to make good enough experiences and expect people to pay full price for them. It's funny that you price your games the same as these extraordinary experiences competing with your games, but you don't want to make the games extraordinary themselves. You had two options when presented with the fact that Star Wars Outlaws flopped. You could have said, okay, this isn't good enough, we'll do better, or you could have came out and told people, hey, lower your standards, and you literally chose the second option. Do you know how bad this looks for your company? Like, you're already at an all-time low for your stock price, yet you want to just continue burying this shit. But I mean, if we're being completely honest, do you think most gamers are smart enough to know that this article is literally them admitting they don't want to make extraordinary experiences and they just want to make mid-games? No. Let's be honest. As Ubisoft works to turn things around after a few bad years, CEO, not even gonna try to say that, reckons making good, solid games won't cut it. Sorry man, I am not trying to pronounce that name, I'm gonna absolutely butcher it. Here's the thing man, your games just aren't solid. Your old ones are very good, I think they're actually well above solid. But your newer games like Star Wars Outlaws got like a 54 user score on Metacritic. That is like the definition of mid. In my opinion, a solid game is a 7.5 out of 10 or higher. 5 out of 10 is just slop.
That shit is a 2-pack of ass.
Now, if you guys constantly launch 7.5 out of 10 or higher titles, and you wanted to make this article, okay. On the heels of Assassin's Creed Shadows delay, which has made Ubisoft's 2024 noticeably lighter, CEO discussed plans for the future. Bear in mind, this past February, the CEO described Assassin's Creed Mirage as a turning point for the studio's output as it works to regularly put out good games again. Am I gonna have to pull up the critic scores? Okay, got a 7.1 user score, which is passable. I think anything above a 7 out of 10 is passable for a video game, and it's not too bad if you get it for like 50% off. But that's nothing compared to the games you used to put out like Assassin's Creed 2 that got an 8.8 user score. If you start making games like that again, and those games weren't perfect by the way, but you start making games like that again, I promise you'll see a turnaround with the company. But you don't want to do that, because it takes effort. In his words, the beginning of our turnaround to consistently creating and delivering high-quality, long-lasting games. But here's the thing, you're talking as if this is like some Elden Ring. You're talking as if this is some Dark Souls 3. You're talking as if this is Space Marine 2. You're talking about a game that's just it's alright. It's okay. You're not talking about a masterpiece here. If you guys created masterpieces like you used to do, you'd be in a better situation right now. But you'd rather just create games that are okay and people don't mind picking up in the bargain bin now and then. Speaking on an investor conference call today, the CEO reckoned that good just ain't good enough. In today's challenging market and with gamers expecting extraordinary experiences, delivering solid quality is no longer enough. You think 5 out of 10 is solid quality? Maybe I'm out of the loop here and maybe my standards are just too high for what modern gaming is able to deliver. But the reason why my standards are the way they are is because of what I grew up with. I grew up with the Xbox 360, mainly, and that shaped my expectations for quality. And, like, this shit ain't it. I'm very curious to know down in the comment section, do you think 5 out of 10 is solid quality or mid? And after you tell me what you think 5 out of 10 is, whether it be mid or solid, tell me what console generation was your first generation you grew up with. Anyway, back to the article. We must strive for excellence in all aspects of our work. This will enable the biggest entry in the Assassin's Creed franchise to fully deliver on its ambition, notably by fulfilling the promise of our dual protagonist adventure with Neo and Yasuke. Or I think I said that right, I don't know. Bringing two very different gameplay styles. Well, see, the thing is, you've already pissed off a lot of Japanese people with this game when you released this figurine right here. I mean, look at the object in the background. If you know anything about history, you know exactly what that is. I don't know if I can even go into detail. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but if you search up World War II monument, Assassin's Creed Shadows, just search that up and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about if you're curious. Basically, it's just a lot of disrespect shown towards Japanese culture, which Ubisoft has not, like, shied away from doing in the past. This stance, which warrants the immediate counterpoint that perhaps this might not only be enough for AAA projects that guzzle money like a Humvee guzzles gas, follows positive but not ravenous reception for Star Wars Outlaws. Positive reception, but every single video I see talking about the game is talking about how there's some game-breaking bug where they couldn't finish the game. They're talking about how the game cannot maintain a steady 60 FPS despite being backed by a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They're talking about how the game looks like a PS3 game and performs like one too. They're talking about the character model controversy. They're talking about the character model glitching out in cutscenes. They're talking about how the game feels soulless. Like, what are you guys on about? They then bring up the Metascore of the game, saying which Ubisoft clocked at a Metacritic score of 76 and an average store user score of 3.9 out of 5. Now, what I found really funny about this is the fact that you bring up the Metacritic critic score, but not the user score that is right below it. Is it because maybe the user scores come from people who didn't get a free copy of the game, so they're not incentivized to leave positive reviews to ensure that they get another early copy when the next game comes out? Is that a possibility? Nah, I'm sure they just completely forgot about the user score that just happens to be lower than the critic score, right guys? Then they say sales aren't exactly great, so Ubisoft's open world Star Wars game is now coming to Steam. I'm sure that's gonna go over great considering they still have to use the Ubisoft launcher in November with its first DLC in tow, and the devs promise multiple free updates to come afterwards. Assassin's Creed Shadow was also specifically delayed based on the learnings from Star Wars Outlaws release regarding polish. Our Star Wars Outlaws review praises its world building and combat, but like many others, docks points for mission variety and bad stealth sections. You forgot about the performance and just the fact that it feels soulless. But, I don't know, man, like, it's just such a cope-ass article. Yeah. Basically, this article reads out as, stop expecting great experiences for your money and accept slop.